Paper Mill Playhouse is an award-winning theater located in Melbourne, New Jersey. Although it's temporarily closed, it's still entertaining its audience at home. I spoke with producing artistic director Mark Hoebee about Paper Mill's virtual programming and how it's adapting to the circumstances. Thank you so much for joining me today.
I'm happy to be here with you.
Yeah, happy to have you. So I'd love to hear more about the virtual programming that Paper Mill Playhouse is doing, while it's temporarily closed.
Sure. When we were all forced to close down in March, we had one show in rehearsal. We were rehearsing Sister Act, which was supposed to be our next production. And then following that, we were going to do a brand new musical called The Wanderer. So both those plans were put on hold. We've actually canceled Sister Act and moved The Wanderer into our next season. But we immediately started to look for ways to reach out to our patrons, keep them entertained, and to remain relevant to them. So we dug into our vaults. That's what we started with.
Yeah.
And we found some great videos of this humanities symposium series we did years and years ago, picking a different composer, highlighting their work, interviewing them sometimes, and then they were live. I'm not even sure why they were recorded at the time, probably just for an archival purpose, but they're really entertaining and very informative. And so like we did one on Sondheim and Jerry Herman. Jerry Herman was actually at that one. So we decided to start broadcasting those. And then we had trouble with negotiating with our unions. We're a fully union house. So the archivals of our main stage productions, we could not broadcast without paying exorbitant rates.
Oh, wow. So
people keep asking, why aren't you broadcasting your archivals of your shows? And it's because those are made as a record. They aren't really made to be broadly distributed. So most of them are a single camera shoot from the back of the theater. The sound's always great, but the picture, it's a little iffy. And the performers, it's not set up as a platform for that. It's not filmed that way. So we're not doing that. But we do a summer series called the New Voices Concert, which is the pinnacle of all our education programs. And it's at the end of our summer conservatory program, which has about 120 kids between the ages of 10 and 18 in a fully produced 2-hour show. And we do record that and edit it. And the parents of the students have it as a record. And we've always kept those available to view through our website. So we started broadcasting those too. And because they're students, it's not under our union guidelines, so it's a little easier. So we're doing those two. And then I started a weekly series on Wednesdays interviewing artists who've worked at Paper Mill, actors, designers, directors. It's called Babbling by the Brook. I think it's the 5th week this week, but we've already recorded about 12 of them. So I interview people, and then we don't do it live. We edit it, and we drop in photos and videos. I think they're really great. They're like 30 or 35 minutes. And all of it's available on YouTube and on our Paper Mill Facebook page. So those are kind of the entertainment things we're doing now. And then we've shifted all our education programming online. That was a biggie. Our classes for the theater school, for the spring semester, and really importantly, I don't know how much you know about our access programs. We do a lot of work with children on the autism spectrum, and we work with some schools like Spectrum 360 and Horizon School in Livingston, and we typically have artists in residence at those schools, but that's impossible. Well, kids aren't there. I guess our artists could go, but nobody would be there.
Yeah.
So we have these Theater for Everyone classes, which are pointed toward children with a variety of challenges. Some are physically challenged, some emotionally, some cognitively, and those classes are all free. So we transitioned those online too, because I think it's tough enough having a kid home certainly in the school age years. But if you have a child that has some challenges, that's even more difficult for the parents, more time consuming. So we've transitioned those online. And then our summer conservatory, which is starting in a couple of weeks, which is typically 120 kids running all over the campus of Montclair State, getting ready for this big production at Paper Mill, that's all going to be virtually delivered this summer. So it's 6 weeks of classes and coachings and improv classes and dance classes, but all of it, via Zoom. So it's crazy. It's a whole new, left turn for our company and the industry, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that must have been so crazy to have to adapt like that. But it is, yeah, I think it's so important to keep it going and keep it virtual and have something. Yeah. And I saw that you had the Rising Star Honors online as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so great to still be able to, have those kids get their work shown and honored and to hear those messages from the previous performers.
Yeah, well, HTTV has been, a great friend of ours in a lot of our programs, and certainly broadcasting that one, the Rising Star Awards typically. Yeah, that was really hard because we had like 90 some high schools from across the state who were going to participate in this year's program. And the shows happened between, I think I don't know the exact, I think it's between December and May, or December and April. So when we shut down in March, some shows had already happened, fully produced, and been adjudicated, and some shows were still in rehearsal. So it was hard to hold any kind of award ceremony, even virtually, because how do you compare a school that's completed their program, their process, and one that's just in rehearsal? So we decided to just do an honors program, that we were going to honor everybody who participated. And each school that had registered was allowed a certain amount of time to submit any material they wanted. It could be B-roll from your production. Some schools submitted some rehearsal footage. Some schools got their cast together on Zoom and did a little number on Zoom and posted photographs. And then we brought back, it was our 25th anniversary of that program too. Wow. So we were planning a big night. So we invited back some former Rising Star winners, Laura Benanti, Tony winner Laura Benanti, Tony winner Nikki James, Rob McClure, and a bunch, Julia Nitel, who did Beautiful on the road and in Broadway. Brought them back to give testimonials about their experience as a kid in high school and going to the Rising Stars, and then hopefully inspiring these kids who are sitting at home watching it to say, there's a career out there for you. It's just on hold or on pause. But what was so great about that program, I thought, is I don't go to see the shows. I don't have the time to see 100 high school productions, and it wouldn't be fair. I don't judge them, but it wouldn't be fair for me to just go to a few. So I only ever see like the top 7 best musical shows when they do their number on stage at Paper Mill on that awards night, or the top 7 female performers, And this way, on that night, I got to see, I think there were like 68 high schools that submitted some media content. So I saw, performances from high schools and shows that I never would have seen, just because of the change of format. So, there's good and there's challenges, and it was nice that at least all the kids all the students got to celebrate the work that they put in and each other. And the parents, the parents and the teachers invest a lot in all that too. Yeah. So, we're hoping next year it'll be live again, but I don't know. And I don't know if schools, who knows if they'll come back in the fall. And then who knows if they'll do a musical. Some schools are thinking they might be on split session, so that not all the kids are in all the time. So then how do you rehearse? I don't know. I think we're all in this sort of reinventing, rethinking moment. Yeah. And, we'll learn some great things. We'll be frustrated by some things, and we'll miss being together. But we'll, like on the Rising Star Honors, we'll learn that, wow, in this virtual format, we can celebrate 68 productions as opposed to just 7. Or 8 or whatever it is. But the harder thing for us is our main stage musicals, which is, the heartbeat of what Paper Mill is.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that replaces a live experience, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of Zoom performances happening and virtual readings, and they're nice, they're great, but it's not the same. And unless you pre-record and edit, doing them live on the Zoom format is very frustrating because there can be glitches. And I was watching a reading last week that was produced in Los Angeles, but they had actors all over the country participating, and it was live. And in the middle of it, one of the actors was in Long Island, and his internet went out. So he was disappeared from the screen.
Oh my God.
And then the Zoom master had to come in and say, technical difficulties, hold on. And they tried to get the guy back hooked up, and then they were going to have one of the writers read the part. And it probably went on like that. It seemed like an eternity, I'm sure, for them. I think it was probably 7 minutes or so. But, that's a different world. And, as theater makers, I spent my whole life honing my craft for directing musicals and producing musicals. I'm not a filmmaker, and that's what this is now, right? Yeah. It's like TV and film is what we're doing. And we don't have that equipment or those skills, we're learning them very quickly, but it's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah, I have to say though, I think it was the Conservatory students who did a performance of Over the Rainbow in the Rising Star Honors. That was so well done. And I feel like that has to be hard to do something musical over Zoom with the timing and delays, but
that was pre-recorded and edited, obviously. That was two young women who've been through our program, Julia and Rachel Gessner, and they've been in our program for many, many years. I think they both graduated out of it now, but they were looking for a way to help Paper Mill and just get our name out and content out. And that was their idea. They came to us and asked permission, could we get a group of students together again from the Conservatory program and relearn. That was the finale one year for one of the big New Voices concerts. And they put it together. We asked them, we made a couple of stipulations saying, you need to use our musical director. And then they hired an editor. And they recorded all the kids separately, and they did the tracks and put it together. And we wanted to showcase it, highlight it, instead of just sending it out into the world. So we made it we called it the intermission of the Rising Star Honors, because we knew there was going to be thousands of people watching that night. And then the next day we sent it live. But it was beautiful, so moving. It's funny, that was a great arrangement that sort of combined those two versions together and beautifully orchestrated. In the Conservatory, we had 120 kids playing the ukulele, not all playing the ukulele, but and singing that. And on this, again, I think it was like 60 some kids got together, and it was beautifully produced. And that will live forever, right? That'll be a moment that will live forever. And we sent it out to our donors, and it's out on social media. And yeah, it's great. And that's exciting in this moment when we're all locked up. But, boy, it makes me long for being in a theater, watching that live. Yeah. And that will come, I don't know when, sooner, I hope, than later. But, so people are being very creative and inventive. But it takes a lot of time and a lot of, talent. An editor, a Zoom master, a musical director who makes the track, and then the kids listen to it in their ears and sing along. It's quite complicated, but when it works well, like that one, beautiful, right? Beautiful.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Like you were saying before, for the students who, this is the career they dream of, and it feels like, oh, it's halted. Having something like that, it's kind of an example of what you can do during this time to still kind of be involved and be creative and get it going.
I've been interviewing, kind of like meeting you today. Hi, Sarah. Some graduating seniors from musical theater programs all over the country. Some from I talked to two from my alma mater, Northwestern, last week, and a couple of more. And they're the most frustrated because, they were supposed to graduate in May and then launch. Many of them had booked work at summer stock theaters or were going to, pack up and move to New York. And I know a lot of careers are stalled right now, but if you're a financial analyst or you want to be in law, that's still happening. The courts are still happening via Zoom, and there's a lot of that paperwork that can be done at home and through the computer. But if you're a performer, it's a really hard time to launch into a career when there's literally no opportunity for you. So people they're doing the showcases. I don't know if you know, but each university that has a musical theater program in the spring, typically they bring their senior graduating students to New York City. They do a showcase in front of agents and directors to introduce them as their, it's kind of like their coming out party, and they put all those online. So they've done virtual showcases, and agents are sitting at home too. Yeah. So they're seeing them, they're meeting them. It's in a different way. But you gotta keep working it, networking and doing whatever you can.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I do miss that magic of the in-person though. And I watched your Babbling by the Brook interview with, I think it was the director and the playwright of Clue. And It made me so excited because that's coming up in October, right? As of now.
Well, we hope.
Yeah, yeah.
Coming up next year, October, I don't know. But yeah, it's a fantastic show. I grew up playing the board game. In fact, I played it not too long ago. And I remember the movie, I think it was like 1996 or 98, with Tim Curry and Leslie Ann Warren and Madeline Kahn, I think, was in it.
I love Madeline Kahn.
Yeah. But I think I saw it. I didn't really remember it. I didn't realize what a cult film that has become. Yeah. People watch it all the time. And I guess they had filmed some alternate endings, and there's some stuff you can find online about it. My son told me, oh, that's my favorite movie. I used to watch it all the time. So anyway, they've translated that. They've taken the movie script, kind of, and written it into a stage production. And it's not a musical, but there's music in it. It's like musicalized, and it's a farce. And it is so cleverly done, so funny. My partner was asking me if they did a multiple ending thing, like they do at the end of Mystery of Edwin Drood, that each night you go, depending on how people vote, there's a different ending. And they don't do that, although I know they filmed several different endings for the movie. But they deal with it in a very, very clever way. And the writer and the director are so fascinating. They are meticulous about not only the script, but the timing of what happens in the show and what you're not seeing off stage. And they have a whole chart plotting every single possible thing about where Mrs. Peacock is with what key in what room, while Colonel Mustard is with what weapon in what room, and it's all perfectly perfect. And the show ran, it started I think at Bucks County Playhouse, and then they brought in Sandy, who's the new book writer, Sandy Rustin. And then it was just done at Cleveland Playhouse with Casey Hush, the new director, and this new book. And it's sold out there. And it's sold out with repeat business, where people would see the show and then they'd want to come back to watch and track to see if how they're explaining things at the end was really true. And they did some fascinating things where they set up in their lobby card tables and the board game for Clue. So people would arrive early and play Clue in the lobby. People were coming dressed in costume. It was great. And the set's pretty spectacular too. The set, it looks like a simple one-room box set, but it's not. Every wall opens, and I think there's 9 rooms. I can't remember. The parlor, the conservatory, the billiard room, and each room appears and disappears magically. I can't wait for that one. It's going to be really, really great. So hopefully October, but if not October, a little later.
Yeah.
We'll be definitely doing that one.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one too. Yeah. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything we didn't get to that you'd like to talk about?
Well, one other thing that we're doing actually, we just started this week. New Jersey and New York started outdoor dining, so you can go and eat outside. We have a restaurant at Paper Mill, the Carriage House restaurant at the FM Kirby Carriage House, and they just opened their doors. We can't eat inside, but we have all that beautiful outdoor space at Paper Mill. So they've set up tables, and we've even set up a stage. So on Saturday nights, we have live entertainment, a cabaret show.
Okay.
That's the way we're bringing life back on campus and entertainment and just, having people around the building, all socially distanced, temperature check at the door, gloves and masks, to deliver food, but no masks while you're eating, obviously. But yeah, really, really fun. And so it's going really well. And we're thinking we're going to expand that maybe all summer, maybe into the fall too. So
That's
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet people really appreciate the chance to get out and get some good food and entertainment.
I think everybody is just aching for that.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great to talk to you, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
I'd like to thank Mark Hoebee for taking the time to speak with me today. If you'd like to learn more about Paper Mill Playhouse, be sure to visit their website, papermill.org, and be sure to check out their Facebook and YouTube pages for the virtual programming. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and are maybe even inspired to create. Paper Mill has certainly shown us that the show not only must go on, but it can go on. And until we can come together again to enjoy the magic of live theater, we can enjoy the virtual magic from our homes.